everyone to another video tutorial about animation. In the comment section for my previous video, I was asked to make a full video on animation process, starting from the very beginning and ending up with the coloring part. I will not go through the most basic stuff since it was well explained in my first video, and I will leave the link in the description to this video. The video will be divided into four main parts: draft or sketch, then line art, shadows, and finally the coloring process. During this video I will try to answer the questions asked in the comments for my previous tutorials. As promised, we will start with the draft. Below in the timeline there is a layer above the white background layer, which I used for the draft. There are already both the keyframes and the filler frames inside. For this short animation I used only 3 keyframes. I guess I cannot really tell anymore which were the keyframes initially. The first one definitely, and then somewhere in the middle probably. I used some guidelines to understand the movement of her face and eyes. Speaking about the guidelines, someone was asking about those blue lines that I used in one of my videos. These are called the guidelines, and you can easily set some if you want. Press and hold Ctrl to move the guideline you have created. The guideline helps you to track the movement through your work and see if there are any unwanted deviations. There is also another way to create a guideline apart the one you have just seen. Go to the ruler, which is located on the top or on the side of your drawing window. Press and drag it to your drawing. To clear the guidelines, go to the View tab in your menu on top and click Clear Guides. You can see I have already done some work here, and I will not be showing the process of drawing the filler frames. When at this stage, however, I would recommend you to use the arrows on your keyboard back and forth to check if the movement looks okay. For the longer parts you can use the cursor here to move it manually through the work you have done, and you will see if there are any mistakes as well. By the way, I have a small update about creating filler frames. There is a function of inserting the blank frame, which helps greatly. Now let's imagine you have a new video layer with keyframes only, and now you need to insert filler frames in between. First you need to split your timeline. To split the timeline, use this small button, Cut. Next, you need to insert a new frame. Go to the top menu and find Layer. Then go to Video Layers and find the Insert Blank Frame. Then go to your timeline and drag it to the right. It will add a new frame and you don't need to erase anything. When working with a draft, don't forget to enable the onion skins and set up the preferable settings. The line art that you do for your animation or cartoon is similar to the one you do for your usual drawing, since a cartoon consists of many single drawings. And as we are working digitally in Photoshop, we will be using different layers. We create a new layer on top of our draft. You can see I called it a line art. Now let's imagine that you have finished your draft for animation and you need to create a new layer for drawing the outline. So just go and create a new blank video layer. It will be automatically inserted on top of your draft layer. And now we will be working in this layer only. Remember that you still need to see your sketch. However, to make the draft less distracting, I advise you to change the draft layer opacity to some 50%. Also, don't forget to disable the onion skins, since the additional lines might be misleading. Basically, there are 2 different ways how you can draw a line art. You can do it manually or use special tools. There is a pen tool that you can use if you don't feel confident about your drawing skills. What you need to do is you need to create a path. The tool allows you to change the shape if necessary, and when it's ready you right-click and select the option to stroke the path. Afterwards, you have to delete the path. I personally find this way very inconvenient and I'm drawing the line art manually. When you are doing the outline, you may find it easier to duplicate the previous frame and amend the lines according to the draft where necessary, instead of drawing the line art from the very beginning for each next frame. If you are duplicating the line art from the previous frame, then don't forget that you can always disable your current layer to double check it with your sketch. Let's move on to the shadowing part. We will be drawing the draft for the shadows now. Create a new video layer under the Lineart layer. I name it Shadows. Decide where is the light source as it affects the shadows directly. Is it on the right, on the left, right, above, in front, or behind your character? You need to think of your drawing in 3 dimensions. I've decided that for this drawing, the light will be coming from this side. It might be better to draw the shadow draft in some other color. In order to not lose the color I used for the line art, I will leave a spot where I can take the color later. Select the color you will be using for your shadows. I decided to pick a blue color, and I know I need a lower opacity for my brush. And now, considering where is our source of light, we finally start drawing the shadows. Now we finished with the first frame and have to move on to the next one. Keep in mind that at this step you are animating the shadows. That is why remember to enable the onion skins again, as you need to see the borders of the shadows in your previous frame. You may color the shadows if you feel it is necessary. Filling in the shadows might be time consuming, however, if you feel it is necessary, then do it. And finally, let's move on to the coloring part. By this moment we have our 3 layers: line art, shadows, and draft. And now we need a new layer for coloring. The layer for coloring will be inserted between the shadows and draft layer, and I will explain why. If you create the layer for coloring on top of the shadows layer, later, after you fill the first layer with the solid color, you will not be able to see where the shadows were or what shapes they had, which will make all your previous work pretty useless. Of course, you can always move the layers to change their places, but still. You can create a video group or insert just a blank video layer. I prefer to name the layers for better navigation to avoid any mistakes. Next, I advise you to create a palette for the colors you will be using. Remember that you can always change the color in the hue saturation settings. This one will be for her clothes and this one for her hat. When the palette is ready, you can use this eyedropper tool to pick up the necessary color. So finally, let's start coloring. As always, there are several different ways how you can do it, but I will show you my favorite ones. First one is not the most convenient way, but sometimes it might be useful. Select the brush tool and manually draw the borders of the field you need to fill. When it's done, fill the selection with the paint bucket tool. It is not the fastest way, however, it can be used for small fields you want to color. And then there is another way to color the picture by using the lasso tool. I will be using the magnetic lasso tool. You don't need to click anything, just guide your pen cursor along the line art and the tool will be doing its job. Afterwards, fill the selection with the paint bucket tool and that's it, done. Proceed with the hair, clothes and other details of your drawing. The last thing left is coloring the shadows. We have the draft, but now we need to draw the shadows with colors, right? Create a new layer on top of the shadows layer. Choose the color for the shadow. OK, that will do. Select the fill with the lasso tool and fill it with the paint bucket. In the comment section for the video about filler frames, I was advised to get an extension for Photoshop called Animate for PS6. I checked about the plugin in Google and I want to say big thank you to the person who advised this. Unfortunately, for me it didn't really work. I tried to get it from different sources, but ended up with some viruses on my computer. Anyways, this seems to be a very cool plugin, and if you can get one for yourself, then go for it. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope it was useful. If you have some questions, leave them in the comments below. By the way, I have a Facebook page where you can check my drawings, and now you can also support me on Patreon if you want to see more videos like this or even better. So that's it. See you in the next video.